Okay, so hi everyone, and thank you very much for watching or listening. Liam Hartree here with another episode of Presenting Champions for the Simply Inspired podcast. Today, joined by a very special guest, it's Billy Mason, Bare Knuckle Pit Fighter for Spartan. As many people watching this will know, Bare Knuckle Pit Fighting is one of the toughest combat sports anywhere in the world, competing in 8 foot by 8 foot hay bales. It's as tough as they come. But as always with my podcast, it's not just about fighting and everything. We're going to go a little bit deeper today and get into some of Billy's background, some of the things he's overcome in his life to become the man he is today, which I think are super inspirational for people out there. So we're going to be talking about all that. So stay tuned. And mate, thank you for coming on the show. And it's
no problem, pal.
an absolute pleasure
No
to.
problem.
Okay, well, we're going to get into it from the beginning. I don't always start from the beginning, but I will today with you. Obviously, you're known for Spartan. You're known for being a family man, a hardworking man as well. And that's the way your life is now. But when we go back in time, your life wasn't always that way. I mean, you had some challenges growing up. So one of the things I'd like to start with is about like being in the care system, and this is something you went through when you were growing up. All the respect in the world, by the way, for talking about it publicly, because it's still quite a personal thing. So please share with us as much or as little as you'd like to about that time in your life and some of what happened there, please.
Well, it started off when I was just young, and I don't know why I got put in there. To be honest, I just one day some people turned up and they took us into the care home, and then I never really had a family when I was a kid because everyone was always drinking. And then I went into the care home, and life got worse from there. Really, it was just I was getting fed to the lions going into the care home, and then a few things happened in the care home which are personal, and then I got moved into the foster care. Then from the foster parents, I went back into care, and then I went back to my mum's, but it wasn't really a family home when I went back home. I was scared to go back home, really. But as you grow up, you realise, who could do something like that, you know what I mean? She had other children as well, and to this day, I can't understand why she put us in there. It's a hard thing to come out of, but it is what it is. But I guess it made us the man I am today, really.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's one of those things where you've obviously taken some positives from it, but at the same time, it's a very, very difficult situation. And as I mentioned, I've got all the respect for you sharing that with us and with everyone who will listen to this and everything. So when you were first taken into care, how old were you at that time?
I think I was about 8, 8 years old. I was really, really young.
Very young.
The worst thing was, though, the care home that they put us in was next door to me primary school, junior school, whatever it was. And I used to get bullied in there for being in the homes, had an out. And it was a nightmare, really, to be honest.
Yeah.
And then I got passed about, and I just don't understand it this day, to be honest.
So, okay. So as I mentioned with this, like I mentioned to you when we were setting this up, right? I never dwell on anything negative in the podcast. So it's never like getting into some of the more brutal aspects of some of these things. It's always about like how you overcome it, because what that does is that shows if you can do it, other people can do it as well. And later on, I'm going to get you to share a message about what you would say to other people in care and everything. We'll get to that shortly. But before we do, if you don't mind sharing a little bit about what it was like in there in terms of like an average day, and how many kids were in there and all that type of thing. I know a little bit how it goes. There's people in my extended family who've actually had that, but in terms of people who don't know anything about it, basically, can you just explain like what it was like inside the institution, if you like?
Well, it was basically you weren't cared for in the home I was in. No one had any time for you at all. You were just left to roam about. I would just go and do my own thing, come back in. And there was this one bloke in there, and he was horrible. He was like a predator. like, just a horrible person, you know what I mean? And I used to still go and see my friends and all that, and then that's all it was. But basically, all it done was give you a bed and fed you, and that was it. It's just, it will be different now, but back in the day, it was just, no one cared about you, to be honest. Like, it's just horrible.
It does sound it, and as I mentioned, all the respect for getting out of there and for sharing it here. And I know I keep saying that, and for you, it's obviously it's your life, and I don't know how much you talk about it with your people and everything, but sharing it in public, I mean, I got all the respect for that. Okay, so yeah, left to your own devices and everything, pretty much left to roam about and everything, and it wasn't really a safe place or anything at all by the sound of it, with like some of the people in there.
Anything, it was worse because you had the older kids in there and they were just all bullies. And I wasn't like that when I was young. I was a nobody, really. I think people used to just target us when I was a kid, to be honest. But I guess it's made as why I am today. So it doesn't bother me, like, is what it is.
Have you ever, because you mentioned at the beginning that you're not sure of the actual reasons and everything. Is it something that you've ever wanted to go back and sort of find out, like what happened when you were initially put in there, or is it something that you just prefer to leave it where it is, type of thing, and move on?
No, it's just because I'd be going into my past, won't I? And then my head would get done in with it all, and really it doesn't bother really. Not now, it doesn't, because I am how I am through my childhood, really. That's how it is, really.
Yeah, absolutely.
A lot of kids in my situation are probably all in jail now or stuck on drugs or whatever, but I never took that path, mate.
Yeah.
I am who I am, really.
Yeah. You are who you are, absolutely, and it takes a lot of mental strength and emotional strength as well, because the thing is, even though you're known as being like a tough individual, obviously with your hands and everything, I think it takes a lot of strength inside, if you get what I mean, to come through like that, So, okay, so we've touched on that. So then we'll move on from this briefly, and we'll come into like your sort of teenage years and a little bit later. But before we do, you were also put into homes, like adopted temporarily or that type of thing, as I understand it, and taken into houses. So I just wanted to touch on that briefly as well, because as I mentioned, other people who've been through the same thing, they'll relate to this, but also people who don't know about it, it'll open their eyes a bit to what actually goes on. I hope it will anyway. So when you were taken into those homes, what is that process like? People come and see you in the home, and then you sort of go home with them at a later date, or I mean, how does it work with that side of it?
To be honest, no one come and see us. I was just in my room one day, and they come in and said, "You going?" And then they took us. Literally, it's basically the next estate from where I was, and then they said, "You're staying there for a while." So I went in. I didn't know anyone, but that's how it was. And then they took us away to a caravan. They had loads of our kids, though, I think. I don't know, I'm not sure if they were theirs or not. But the sons didn't like us. And then I stayed with them for a bit, went away, and then I ended up going into another care home just around the corner from the care home that I come from, because there's like 2 care homes in the same estate. And that was just the same as the other one. No one cared about you. No one come and see us, except for my brother, my older brother. He's always been by my side. And then I ended up going back to my mum's. But just a nightmare, really, like.
Yeah. And was that where you sort of first learned to like look after yourself in terms of fighting, in terms of like being able to handle? Because obviously you mentioned that there were like the younger kids and older kids as well, and that sounds like a real cauldron of issues if you put the old ones, the younger ones, and all that. But you mentioned like people in there who were obviously quite dodgy with like other things going on, and probably won't get into that too much. But at the same time, was that sort of thing where you first learned to like defend yourself and look after yourself, or did that come later?
No, that come later on. I think with us getting bullied and that in the care homes and school, I think all that done was just made us tough. But I know now there were bullies, but you didn't look at it that way when you were young, if you know what I mean. And it's just that's how it was. I was never ever really a fighter. I wasn't aggressive. I wasn't out.
Yeah.
I think I was just a target really, but they made us tough, so I'm not bothered about them.
Yeah, well, that's it. I mean, in a funny sort of way, the bullying and all that, that does toughen people up. I mean, it's something you don't want kids to go through, and obviously when you have kids yourself, and you don't want them to go through it. At the same time, it does give you a thick skin, doesn't it? I get where you come from there. Okay, so then obviously later on, and you'll have to clarify the timeline a little bit for us, but basically later on you were getting it more into street fighting. You know, you were settling disputes in your estate and everything, as you mentioned to me, or when we were getting set up. So let's just talk about basically when you decided to flip that switch from being, the person being bullied. I mean, I'm not saying you were a bully yourself. I just mean in terms of like standing up for yourself and giving some back. Or what time did that start to change in that way?
Around about when I left seniors. Like I say, I had the odd fight, but I was never tough or nothing. And then I got locked up for an incident. I think I just blew a fuse. A police officer started hitting us in my mum's house, and I floored him. I'd done him in. I went up going down the stairs, and I hurt him badly. And then I got sent to prison. And then when I went to prison, it was the first time in my life I'd ever been scared. Because people say when they first go to prison, they're not scared to lie. And when I went to prison, something just switched in my head. I was just wiping them out. Anyone who approaches or trying to take my stuff, I'll just give them it. And then that's when I realised in prison that I could fight.
Yeah.
I think it was because I was scared to the point where I've never been scared in my life. And then I just switched. And I was doing people in jail who I would never think about doing outside. But I was just scared, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then that's when I started sticking up for myself.
Well, when some people, it is like that, when your back's against the wall type of thing, obviously it can bring that out in some people. So I get that. Just to mention it briefly, if you don't mind, with the whole police officer thing. So what? So this guy was in your house, but he was a cop. And then you give him hiding, obviously, and that's so was he arresting you, or was he like just hassling your family, or what? Like, what was he actually doing?
I think he was coming from my brother, and was sitting there in the house, and he was just a bully, really. And I'm not too sure if they arrested my brother, but they started spraying CS gas at everyone and all this, and basically he was being a bully, so I just jumped up and I gave him a four. I don't know where it come from, but I done it. And then I ended up going down the stairs, rolling. So he went flying down the stairs. And then that's where it all begun, really. Like, I think he called us a fat. Couldn't you know what I mean? Yeah. And I just jumped up and I stuck a nut on him and got into him.
Well, I mean, all I'll personally say to that is fair play for protecting your family, because at the end of the day, I mean, it's something where, it sounds like if you hadn't done that, things would have gone from bad to worse anyway. And obviously, obviously in recent times, we've heard a few cases where coppers have actually gone down for, some heavy stuff, haven't they, with like rapes and all sorts of things and bullying people and, there's been a few cases. So I think that, standing up, I'm not against everybody. I mean, there's some good ones and some bad ones, but standing up to bullies, whatever form they come in, is fair play to you. And I know it got you locked up, but it's still protecting your family is what you've got to do. I mean, that's my personal view. Yeah. So, okay, so you was in there, and how long were you actually locked up for then?
First it was 6 months, and then they let us out for good behaviour. And then they just started coming and arresting us for stuff. The police, they would keep on coming, getting us. Then I'd breach my licence, and then I would be back in prison and back out. And then it happened for over like the space of 3 years. And was a nightmare, really, to be honest. Like,
Yeah.
that's why I was in and out of prison on the same sentence. I kept coming in and out, and then that's about it. And then I don't think I've been back since.
Yeah, well, you turned it around big time, which we'll touch on shortly. But as well as that, around your local area, you know, by this time, were you known as being, you know, basically like a tough individual, like a hard man around your area? Because you mentioned, obviously, when we were setting this up, you mentioned settling disputes and sort of sorting things out in the area. So by that time, were you sort of getting that reputation, if you get what I mean?
Well, no, to be honest, I used to stick up for my mates when we used to be in trouble with other people. But then, to be honest, a few people used to smack us all the time and all this. And then there was one person, and like an older person, I still talk to him this day. He's called Alan Love, and he used to like drill it into us, like, don't take mates, bother, whatever. Basically, he made us go play balls, and that's where it all started from. Because really, I knew if I was getting into trouble over my head, I would have him behind us or whatever, but I never ever needed that. I just started sticking up for myself. And then I used to fight with the other hard lads from different estates. Like, and it was all mad, really. Like, but I get on with them all now. But we used to have straighteners on fields, settle disputes anywhere we seen each other. Really, like, it was a mad few years, like.
Yeah, it's a pretty wild time, isn't it? I mean,
really wild.
Yeah, it sets you up for what was to come. When you say about like having the straighteners like that, was this mainly like sort of like a spur of the moment thing where you bump into somebody or you see someone passing and it kicks off, or was it more like the beef was there and then you were setting up something for like, you know, we'll fight tomorrow at whatever time?
Yeah.
Like that, yeah?
That's exactly how it was.
Yeah.
Or if we're seeing each other anywhere, we'll be straight on. Even though we used to fight in fields and have straighteners one-on-ones, regardless if we're seeing each other, it would be on straight away.
Yeah.
But the beef never dropped really. Like, that's what it was like back in the day. But like I say now, I speak to them all now, and that's how it was back in the day. It's not like it is now.
Yeah.
All the weapons and that. And back in the day, if you had beef with someone, you'd fight them, and then you'd fight them again when you see them. It's just like just a law, really, back in the day.
Yeah, well, absolutely. I mean, the thing with that is obviously a lot of times, though, you know, it does sort the problem out to a degree. I mean, obviously, sometimes with beefs, you know, it can sort of be left there that, you know, you've had a fight and that's the end of it. Obviously, sometimes it continues and everything. But either way, I mean, it's still well different than nowadays. What are your thoughts on that then, with the people now, you know, where they're carrying all the weapons and it's like a totally different world, really, in that way, you know?
It is. It used to be like that years ago. I had a fight a few years ago with someone. I was setting beef with him, and he stabbed us twice. And it was only about 5 or 6 years ago. And I've never heard no back of that. But a few years before that, I got stabbed through the arm as well with weapons. But it's just tough, man, isn't it?
Yeah.
Just if you use a weapon, you're a coward, really, in my eyes.
I think so, yeah. I mean, absolutely. I mean, because, you know, you need that, and it shows the fear people have, you know. I mean,
yeah.
The thing is, like you mentioned about like when you first went to prison and all that, being scared and everything. I mean, you know, everybody has that fear, even when they first fight in or when you first have your first beef or your first issue with someone. But you know, over time you face up to it, and it gets to be less and it gets to be less. And obviously, I think with the whole stabbing thing, they're just not facing up to actually being afraid of confronting people, if that makes sense. And it's a strange thing. So you've been stabbed. So I have to ask you about that. I mean, don't get me wrong, we will get to to Spartan and everything, but I mean, you've lived such an amazing life, like a roller coaster of different things, you know. Yeah, being stabbed. I mean, I've had a couple of people on the show I've interviewed who've had that, and they've actually said that when they were fighting and they were stabbed, they didn't actually know until later on, and they thought they'd just been hit, you know, and then only later on, like they felt the blood and all that. Was that the case with you, or did you know that?
Well, the first time I was fighting someone and he stuck a knife through my arm, and I seen it, but I didn't realise it didn't process with us, and I pulled the knife out my arm, and my arm opened up. I felt that one because it hit me bone. And I didn't really think about it at the time. I was walking about, and next minute, you know, I woke up in my mate's car, blood all over us. Then I went into surgery. But the second time, about 5 years ago, was a screwdriver, and he repeatedly hit us with it. I could feel everyone because it wasn't breaking the skin. But I think when the person stabbed us through the arm, I didn't know it was through the arm. I knew he hit us with something, but I think it's just when I seen it straight away, because it was just blood everywhere. Like,
Yeah.
but I didn't feel it. Just felt like a punch until I tried to move my hand, and then I felt the pain. And stupidly, I pulled it out my arm.
Well, it's probably best though. I mean, you know, it's so that one was a knife, the first one with the arm, and then the second one was a screwdriver. Yeah, that's brutal, man.
Yeah. When loads of holes on my arms, it hit me lungs, went through the side rib cage, on my shins, back my legs. It was kind of horrible, like.
Yeah.
But it is what it is.
Yeah, yeah. And how did you recover from that one then? Because it sounds like obviously with the arm, obviously it was bad because you had to have surgery and maybe had to get the movement back or something. But with the screwdriver, obviously it sounds like there's multiple holes, if you like. And
it was worse recovery than the knife going through my arm, because some places it didn't puncture, it like really swells up. Like, I don't know, I cannot understand it. It's like I had massive bruising everywhere.
Yeah,
really bad. And then I ended up, it was horrible, really, like, because I could feel everyone. I was scared. And then I knocked them out, and then I took the screwdriver off them and I walked away.
Yeah.
And then I had to ring my mate to come pick us up and take us to the hospital.
That's
hard, like.
Yeah.
That was only about 5.5 years ago.
Yeah, yeah. And given obviously what you told me earlier about the beating up the copper and chucking him down the stairs and all that sort of stuff, was the cops ever involved with these things, like with the, you know, like did they ever find out who stabbed you, or did you just leave it there and just carry on?
I just left it. I just left it. Or I didn't bring it out. I didn't tell anyone. The police actually, when I was in hospital, come and arrested us. I woke up and I had cuffs on the bed, and for breach of the peace. And then they were trying to get information out, is what I wouldn't tell them now.
Yeah, well, that's the best way, really. But okay, fair enough. So a wild ride so far. I mean, absolutely mental. But obviously, I have to give a mention to, as well as the violent stuff and everything, during a point in time, obviously, as you mentioned when we were setting this up, you were becoming more of a sort of a family man, more of a hard-working man, and you had a different mentality. So obviously, even though people know you as being a tough individual, I mean, there's no doubt about that. There's no two ways about that. You obviously got this, family is very important to you, and, being like I say, a hard-working person and everything. So was that the same sort of time as some of this, or was there a time where you decided to sort of make more of a change and move away from some of the violent situations, if you get what I mean?
Well, I've always been a working man. Like, even years ago, I've always worked. Then I met my current partner, Misha, who I've got me twins to in our family, and I think them puts on the right path, to be honest. Like I do out for them. I love them all a bit. Me little girls as well. Basically, I think twice before I go and do something. I would never fight someone unless they were going to come and threaten my family, if you know what I mean. But I've always been kind and talk to people with respect all my life. I think that's what, when I was young, I think that was my downfall. That's why people just use us as a target. But It's just with my current partner and my Burns, it just settles on the right path, to be honest. Like,
Yeah.
I always think twice now. Like, I got through some hard stuff all the time, but like, I'll not do nothing unless I need to. If you know what I mean.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I mean, well, there's a couple of things. Obviously, now, I mean, you've got something to lose and everything, and maybe you didn't have as much to lose before, possibly. I don't know, but that's something that I get the vibe of. But yeah, protecting your family. I mean, that's what it's all about. And beyond that, a lot of it's not always worth it at the end of the day. I mean, that's the thing. Which leads me to something. I mean, anyone who's watching this, who's getting into a bit of trouble, or they relate to that type of thing, like you were a few years ago or whatever, what would you say to people who are in that situation? Would you give them any advice or anything?
My advice would be, don't put your hands on anyone until you're in danger. Really, like that's what I've always been like. That's what I'm like now, because regardless of the outcome of stuff now, the law these days, anything can happen now. Like, just if you've got beef with someone, I think you should settle it. If you can't settle it, and then I couldn't tell you, to be honest. Like, I really couldn't.
That's fair enough. That's fair enough. I mean, the thing is, it's I would say it's best to get out your system. It's one of those things where it is a different world now, though, with the weapons. I mean, this is the thing. I mean, say if you go and put hands on somebody and you just start trying to have a proper straightener or just settle it the normal way, they might pull a weapon or something these days as well. One of the things I've heard is a lot of people, they'll do something to somebody, or they'll threaten somebody or whatever. Person will go and try and sort it out with them, and then they'll report it. Like, so say if somebody threatened you or did something to you, or whatever, and you went and put hands on them, they'd say, "Oh, then he attacked me" or whatever. And there seems to be like a different mindset to it now. It happened a lot with my granddad. Used to own an arcade with like a bingo and all that. And obviously back in the day, he used to throw everyone out, and anyone who's causing trouble, he just get them out of there and all that. And he started having it with, like, he throws someone out because they broke into a machine or they nicked some money or whatever. And then they complained about him, and he'd obviously get the thing for it. And it's like, well, it seems to be a different mindset in today's world.
It is, yeah, that's where I come from when I say, like, if someone's got beef with you, if someone attacks you, and then you've got the right to give them a fall, isn't it? And then some people, I'm kind of, I don't look like I am who I am, but when someone puts their hands on us, then that's a different story.
Yeah, yeah.
So, I mean, then I'm not in the wrong for hitting them if they haven't attacked me. I don't believe in that stuff. So if someone puts their hands on you, then you've got the right to defend yourself straight up. Regardless of how nice you are or whatsoever.
Yeah, absolutely. You have. I mean, I totally get what you were saying though about the thing about you're basically a nice guy. I mean, you seem that way now, very down to earth, very respectful. And people do target people, but at the same time, you've got nothing to prove, have you? I mean, you've been through it all. I mean, you've had the screwdriver thing, you've had the thing. I mean, this is the thing. I think a lot of people now, like with the knives and stuff, they're sort of trying to prove a point in a funny type of way. Whereas obviously when you've like really been through some of these things, you don't have to prove a point. You don't have to tell people. You just, you know what you can do, and that's the end of it type of thing. So it is very much a different mindset. So we're getting to Spartan now. One more question about this. With the care stuff, anyone who's been in that situation, same thing. I would just like to get your advice for anyone who's been through what you've been through, or anyone who's going through it now or whatever, and what you'd say to those people, basically,
What I would say, what I was been through, if you get mistreated in the care home, you've got to speak out. You 100% got to speak out, because it's not what people say it is. I had a really bad time in it, and I had no one, absolutely nobody. I spoke out once, and I think that's why I got moved. And but what I would say is just be yourself. If someone puts you in a care home, the way I see it, right, they don't want you. So just be yourself, and then the day you'll grow up to be who you are. If you're a kind person, then don't go down the way of other people in the care homes, because I could have went down a total different path now. Totally. The stuff I've been through, it's now I've got what I've got now. I've got my kids. I'm a family man. I've got my lovely woman. Got everything I want, really.
Yeah.
And I could have went down a total different path. I could have turned out to be a bully or whatever, but I'm not. So what I've got to say to people is just be yourself. And then the day, be yourself. If you're in tough times, at the end of tough times, there's always good times. That's how it is.
Absolutely, yeah.
The room never ever stays dark. There's always light at the end. So
Yeah.
just can't think about that like that.
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, it's amazing what you've overcome, and I really hope that it just opens a few people's eyes to, you know, some of the like people who are not aware, you know, because I've got the vibe, and I'm not going to go too much into this. I'm just going to mention it very briefly. I've got the vibe from what you're saying that there's like more abuse or much darker stuff that goes on in there by the sound of it. And
Yeah.
you didn't say anything about your experiences because it's too personal, but
Well, I would say I got I'm not scared to say there's only few people know this, but like there was, I got abused 2 or 3 times in the homes off a certain person, and it's one of them. Like it's horrible, but it's one of them. To be, in fact, I seen him about a year and a half ago down Shields, and I just thought to myself, it's a waste of space. You get what's coming to him at the end of the day.
yeah.
And I'll never, for what happened to me in the homes, I'll never ever forgive any of the people who put us in there. Never. It's like getting fed to lions. But now it's all different now. So when you were young years ago, if you spoke up about something, it's like, well, you're in the homes, you're a little tearaway. But it is what it is. But now, like I say, I could have been someone else, but if you're ever in trouble in homes, you got to speak up.
Yeah. I mean, you absolutely speak out. There's more awareness now, I would say, than what there used to be of some of these things, which is good. There still could be more again, you know, and even with what we're doing today, I hope it plays even a small part in just, you know, raising a little bit of awareness, even if it's just a few more people who find out, then it's good, you know. All right, well, let's get into Spartan itself and how you came to be what you're known for. You know, in some interviews, I would have actually started there and then worked back. But with this, I mean, your story and getting to where you are today, being a man you are today, all the respect in the world. So, Spartan, how did you first find out about it in the beginning?
Well, through YouTube, to be honest. I've always been intrigued by fighting and all this, but then I thought, like, I haven't got the time for my kids and all this. It's been going on for years, and I knew I could fight. And it was on a Wednesday at dinner time or something. I was on my bed, and someone just clicked me head. I thought, I want to get into this. And then I found out that one of my friends, actually, Danny Wood, fights for him. So I messaged him straight away, and I said, "Do you think you can get us in?" And then I think that's how it all started. And then he rang us back and said, "If you're that serious about fighting 2 weeks." So I was straight on it. And then from then, I'm not going to look back.
Yeah.
I love it. The buzz was unbelievable.
Incredible.
It was like down back. Even though you're getting punched in the face and that, it was mint. The atmosphere, everything, the adrenaline. I never had that like in my life. Great.
Yeah, amazing. That is very cool. So, yeah, you were in love with it from straight away, then, type of thing.
Straight away. Aye. Actually, in the locker rooms, I asked the owner, Christian Roberts, when's the next one? Straight away, I was straight on it. And I'm actually buzzing. He gives us that chance. And he's a top bloke, Christian. I like him a lot.
He is, yeah. I got all the respect in the world for him, and he's got absolute heart of gold. You know, I speak to him all the time, and yeah, he's got a heart of gold, and he just got the time for everybody, and you know, yeah, absolutely. So, okay, so you got into it straight away and everything. How many fights have you actually had with Spartan then? Because I'm not sure.
Only had the one. That the one was on 2 weeks' notice, and now I'm fighting on the 18th of March.
Yeah, absolutely. That's going to be. We'll come to that one now in a minute. We'll come to, obviously, like I said, the future, because this is obviously past, present, and future
Yeah,
today.
yeah.
In terms of the one that you have had, yeah, I mean, you loved it. Talk to us a little bit about what it's like fighting in such a small space, because obviously when you were on the street and there, obviously a lot of these things can happen over like a big distance, if you get what I
Yeah.
mean. In there, it's up close and personal. So, what are your thoughts on that side of things?
It was intimidating when I went. Um, when I seen it, I went white as a sheet. Like, and then just walking towards it. But seeing the fights beforehand when I was watching it, I was loving it. But I was thinking, God, like these are tough lads in there. Like all of them they didn't mess about. They go from 0 to 100 in seconds. And I just couldn't wait to get in. Really, like it was a bit scary. Like when I first went in, like, but once I went in and I was standing in front of them, I was ready.
Yeah,
Ready to go.
got in the zone for it. Yeah,
I
yeah.
absolutely loved it.
Yeah. And when you're in there, obviously, how fast is it? Because I mean, it seemed like you said. I mean, it goes 0 to 100 in well minute, well less than minutes. I mean, it seems so fast. And of all the people, because I also interview people with like boxing, MMA, all the stuff. But I wouldn't say there's anything really as fast paced as a pit fight. What are your thoughts on like the speed of it compared to like a fight on the street or something else? If you get what I mean.
Straight to the point. That's what it is.
Yeah.
Straight to the business. Get it done. Every single fight I watched in there, look all the same. Nobody backs down. It was not like a street fight, because normally a street fight it's over straight away. Well, for me it is with other people. But when I stepped in there with the lad who I fought, he was a tough kid. Tough. And it was good. It was a new challenge for me, because it was a proper scrap. And it was good. But the hard part's over now, getting in there and getting the first one over and done with. I know what I'm expecting now when I go into it. So, but it's I've never done that like that before in my life. It's brutal.
Yeah.
It hurts now for a second.
Yes, yeah. So, do you feel much of it? Because a few lads I've had on here, they say that you only feel like all the knocks and the bangs after the
Yeah,
adrenaline down a bit. Is that the case for you?
yeah, it was. Yeah, you feel the power. The kid who I fought, he had the power on him was unbelievable. Like, I'm a tough kid, and when he cracked me twice, and the knock was for six. Like, but it's just. But after the few weeks afterwards, I was aching like really bad. My whole face, two black eyes. But it's good. It's really good. And the best thing about it as well, fighting for Spawn, all the lads have got the utmost respect for each other. Like, they go in there and breathe each other all over. And they talk to each other every day on the group chat, you know what I mean? And everyone's got respect for each other. That's how it should be.
Yeah.
And it's like the lads talk to each other, and then they get in the pit and they want to kill each other straight away. And then afterwards, it's respect. It's proper, man. That's what it is.
It is. It's total respect. I mean, there's respect in Spartan, like you don't see a lot of other places. And as you say, I mean, people get in there, they have a proper tear up and everything afterwards. They have a pint or whatever, or they
Yeah.
sit and have a chat or whatever it is, And it's just a total mutual respect, and it's lovely to see. Not to mention the fact that as well through Spartan, I mean, like your story, I've seen a lot of people who've achieved some dreams they didn't think it was possible. They wanted to fight. I've seen it save a lot of people. Even though people see it as a violent thing, I've actually seen it save a lot of people from like mental health and addictions and getting in trouble and just all types of stuff, just to get their lives on the right path. So what's the crowd atmosphere like there for anyone who hasn't been to a show, doesn't know about it? Because the atmosphere is obviously electric.
Oh, it's electric. But the best thing about the crowd when I went there, I've been to boxing events, MMA events, and there's always trouble. But the crowd there, for what it is, bare knuckle pit fighting, I met loads of people there. Like, I talked to people who have had this on Facebook, who have seen me fight, who are in the crowd and I didn't even know. And I talk to them all the time now. And It's just for me personally, it was walking into there because it was 2 weeks' notice, and I didn't know a soul really, and I just walked in there just to get out and done with. But now I've talked to loads of people from Spartan. I talked to people from Spartan and the crowd that were there more than I talked to my own friends.
Yeah,
just then.
that's
Really
good.
good. You meet some nice people there. To be honest,
It's good you made some good connections there. Again, I mean, you know, most of the lads have told me that as well. It's just got a unique thing, you know, like a big family in a way. I mean, people just, you know, meet each other, they make the connections, and it just goes from there. So amazing. Well, we've talked about a lot. So the last thing to really get into today is obviously where you want to go from here. I mean, the 18th of March is obviously the next one now as well. So do you have a prediction for how that one's going to go?
there's going to be a knockout. You can the way I see it in there, it only takes one. But I definitely, I'm going in there gun swinging straight away, without doubt. So anyone who's watching this, 18th of March pay-per-view, we've got to be there. Simple.
Absolutely.
I'm not there for the wins, but I'd like it, but I'm ready for this one. Straight up. I put weight on. Mentally strong this time. It's going to be good. Just got to keep up the pace when I get in, because I'm coming out swinging straight away from the ding ding.
Yeah, hell from the first bell. Yeah, absolutely.
Straight away.
Yeah, I love it. So 18th of March, that's the next one. And then obviously, I know you're focused on that one and that's what you're aiming for. So it's always good to take it one fight at a time. But obviously, looking past that one just for a moment as well, where do you want to go from there? What's your aim for, like, you know, later in the year, or just the next steps a little bit further forward in time, you know?
Really, I'm not looking at it as like a career move. Like, I like my life, but I think it's good for me to fight as much as I can. Like, I want to be active. So as many fights as Christian's gonna give us, that's what I'm gonna do. Straight up. I'll not knock a fight back. But, but
Yeah.
I'm going away.
Absolutely. Well, you love it, man. I mean, you obviously love it, like 100% and everything. And, you know, I believe that you're like a future champion with Spartan, to be honest. You know, yeah, I believe that.
Appreciate it.
Well, it's, you know, I say it how it is, and I really get that vibe and everything, you know, given your experiences in the past and like the way you feel about it now, and I can just tell for a lot of reasons. Does fighting sort of help you with obviously you enjoy it in terms of having a scrap and testing yourself and having a tear? Does it help you with any of the experiences you've had in the past? Is there a connection with like getting some of the anger out of your system of some of the things you've been through and that type of thing, or is that not really connected to it?
Because if it was like that, then I don't think I would be where I am at now. If I used my anger for what I've been through, I don't think I'd be where I am now, to be honest. I think I don't know, I just like to challenge myself, and I think I've went the right way about it, fighting for Spartan, because it's a massive challenge. You get all these people thinking, oh, this, that, and the other, but 99.9% of people will not step in that bit.
Absolutely, yeah.
No matter what background they're from. But it's a challenge for me. So it's good.
Yeah,
it's good for me, and it's a nice like Antler Park.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's, you know, I mean, testing yourself, challenging yourself, all that type of thing, the buzz from it, you know, the adrenaline, the buzz. I mean, it sounds absolutely amazing, and I just want to wish you obviously the best of luck for the 18th, and the best of luck for whatever comes next after that. And like I say, I mean, I mean, it was partly like when I contacted you to do the interview, it was a few different things, you know. I got the vibe. There was a story to tell. I can't explain how. It's like an instinct you have with certain people. Like, this guy's got a lot more going on than just what you see. So that was one part, and then obviously we've heard that story, but also it was just, I believe that, you know, you'll be like a future champion with them, and the future is very, very bright. So those two things. We've talked about a lot of things today. What I will say, just real quick as well, is anyone obviously who wants to get in contact with you to watch your fights and everything. I know you're out there on Facebook and everything. You're not hard to find. I will put it out there that if anyone does want to speak to you about experiences they've been through in the care,
Yeah.
they can obviously reach out, because I know you'll be cool with that. But also, if anyone wants to watch the fights as well, they can reach out and find out more about what you do. So on both counts, it's super cool. But no, I mean, the last thing for me to say, mate, just thank you for coming on the show, and thank you for sharing. Obviously, it's been fun talking about the fights and everything, and people all love that. But I thank you for sharing like the personal stuff as well, because I have a lot of respect for that.
I
So
just want to get out there because, like I say, you never ever stay in darkness. There's always a better side. So, and I've come from it firsthand.
yeah.
So
What can be done, doesn't it? That's just the thing. I mean, this is the thing about your life is, at the end of the day, what one man can do, another can do, you know. And you know, if you can overcome it, then it shows people it's possible. And it's something. It's a big part of the reason I do these interviews in the first place, as well as the fighting stuff, is like to give people hope, give people motivation, give people like some type of positive stuff, especially people who are seen as being a bit sort of marginalized, or they're seen as being not less, but like there's stigma around some of these things, if you get what I mean. Like, and you know, sadly, around being in care, and that it's still there for some reason, even though it's nothing to be like ashamed of in any way. I mean, it's someone else's decision to put you in there, but there is still that stigma. So I hope that then some people listening to this will feel less that way and feel better about their situation from listening to your story. And yeah, I'll just say to our audience, keep an eye on this man. He's going places. You know, the future is very, very bright. So no, thank you, mate. It's been a good one. Yeah, top man.
Brilliant.
Thank you very much for watching. Please subscribe to the Simply Inspired YouTube channel, and there'll be more videos coming soon.